On PM Express tonight, the alleged torture of a journalist, the truth and its implications for press freedom. It has been one of the most controversial subjects to emerge in the last few days. What do we know so far? We know that last week, the National Security raided the offices of online portal Modern Ghana. And then they seized several laptops we know currently are still in the custody of National Security operatives. Now, the editor, Emmanuel Ajafo, and they reported, another journalist, their reporter, Chum, were picked up. Now, we know that they're accused of hacking into the financial records and websites of competitors, online portals as well, like Peace FM Online, My Joy Online, etc. That's the allegation that the National Security individuals put forward for the arrest. They were questioned about an opinion piece, and this is their own account of what happened when they were picked up. They said they were questioned about an opinion piece. The questioning had nothing to do with allegations of them hacking into the portals of other websites, competitors, news portals as well. And the particular opinion piece had to do with the National Security Minister, Albert Kandapa, and MPP MP for Futo, Alexander Afenyo Marking. It has to do with the University of Education Winneba controversies that had been in the news for a while. We also know that the journalists have alleged, and this is, I guess, is the part that has got a lot of civil society organizations talking today. They allege that they were tortured while in detention, and we're getting a lot of civil society reaction to this tonight. The National Security, though, have issued a statement, the Secretariat, they've issued a statement today, or last few hours, denying that they tortured these journalists, but it's a fact that it did picked up, and they were told that they were picked up because of a story that they had published, and they were asked to pull down the story, which they did. We'll talk about that. So tonight, we're going in search of the truth, because there are two sides to this. The side of the National Security Secretariat and the side of the journalists who say they've been tortured. And we also hear from civil society groups like the Media Foundation for West Africa, who are really driving home the point about what is happening currently and its implications for press freedom. That is where we're going to be interrogating. In today's Ghana, a journalist can be detained and allegedly tortured, even if it's only about raiding a media house and seizing equipment. Is that one that could hurt our image abroad as far as how the world perceives us in terms of our democracy? Is this a return to the dark days? Well, the Media Foundation for West Africa, they have a statement out and they believe it's so. Well, we'll interrogate that when we return from this break with my guest seated. Stay with us. And you're live on PM Express tonight, a conversation that has raged over the last few days, and particularly emerged when we got to learn about the raiding of a media house and the subsequent arrest and detention of a journalist who worked there. And they emerged later to tell the story of how they were allegedly tortured, manhandled whilst in custody of National Security. The National Security Secretariat has issued a statement denying that happened, but there is a lot more to interrogate. If you read the Media Foundation for West Africa report that they issued today, they catalog more than 30 cases that they believe is gradually turning Ghana into back to the days of a culture of silence. And is that claim by the Media Foundation for West Africa one that is factual, one that the facts bear out? We'll look at that. My guest in the studio with me today to look at this is Robert Akoto Amwafo, who is the country director of the Amnesty International Ghana. Thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you.
Also with me is Andrew Edwin Arthur, who's the president of PRINPAD, who are taking this matter up, that the alleged torture of the journalists and their detention. They've taken the matter up already. PRINPAD, by the way, if you don't know, is the Association print media generally.
Private Newspaper Publishers Association of Ghana.
You know. So they've been in the business for a long time. I mean, I remember back in the day when Freddie Blaine's wife was the head of print part. So the Gina Blaine, I remember quite clearly. So this is a very credible organization. All the private, print media houses, I suppose, are members of the organization. We'll start this conversation. We'll also be joined by Suleiman Abrama, who is Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. I want you to listen to the editor of the board in Ghana, who spoke to us, Emmanuel Abugri, who spoke to us earlier, and recounted how he was tortured while in the custody of national security. Listen.
They came with a slap, heavy slap. So when they ask a question before I could say Jack, then they slap. And sometimes when I speak and they are not enthused, convinced with my answer, they give me a slap. And then from there they torture me. They use the electric shocker to shock my body. And then even to the extent they even shock my ears with the shocker. After which they put a handcuff on my hands behind, and then they were giving me punches and all that. And from there they made me go to the military style, where I have to lean against a wall with my legs up, with my hands down as if I'm doing a press up. Then they gave me a huge slap on my back. Then I fell. Then one guy used his elbow and then straight on my backbone. He hit it and I fell down. I lost breath for a while, so I had to open my mouth and gush in air so I could survive. And I cried like a newborn baby, telling that I am innocent. I don't know the Constant Kwaben guy. And then the second story was actually a press release which we published.
So after all this torturing, when finally were you released, and how did that happen?
So actually they took me on Thursday and they released me on Saturday morning. And so on Saturday morning I was there. And then I was there, and then they came and called me that, look, they have to release me to go. They have to bail me to go. So they gave me my shoe, my belt, they took my phones, they took my 2 phones, my tablet, and my laptop. So when we got there, they collected the password. So I gave my phones to them and all that. So after going through, they didn't see anything. Then when they were releasing me, they gave me the phones and my tablet. But my laptop is still with them as we speak now.
But you are accused of hacking into systems of corporate bodies and your competitors. Is that the case?
When they were interrogating me, those issues of hacking never pop up.
Okay.
Now, if they are saying that I hacked into their system, when they came to our office and raided, what communication gadget did they pick? And when they went through my laptop and my phones, which hacking software did they see? And which corporate email or corporate organization did we hack?
Okay.
Are they not supposed to be told, those organizations, are they not entitled to know? So that they can also do checks from their side to find out that indeed somebody tried tampering with their system, and then they can also come up with their findings and also proceed further.
Okay.
No, I don't have an IT background.
So as it stands now, are you supposed to report back to the National Security or the BNI?
I'm on my way. I'm supposed to report in the morning, but I wasn't feeling well. I had to take my medicine.
And as it stands now, are you getting any medical attention? Have you reported to the...
Yes, immediately when they released me, I had to go to a hospital. Yes, because I was suffering.
I'll bring to you shortly what the statement from the National Security says about what you just heard. But I want to start with you, Andrew. So do you know, I know you've been in touch with them, with the journalists affected. Do you know if they had done the medical examination?
Yes, I just spoke to him before stepping into this studio. He tells me he's gone to the hospital. He's waiting for the medical report. And honestly, I am appalled at what is happening. I think that this is a civilized country, this is a disciplined country, and things like this ought not to happen. First of all, my brother, PRIMPAG, that is the Private Newspaper Publishers Association of Ghana, of which I'm the president, comes into this matter because the National Media Commission, the regulator of the media in Ghana, says all online news portals come under, they are also writers, so they come under PRIMPAG. They come under Private Newspaper Publishers Association of Ghana. So that's where we come in. So that is why we are worried about the fact that our members have been manhandled, have been molested by operatives of national security. So because this morning somebody asked me, but why are you making all the noise? So I told him that the two gentlemen are members of the Private Newspaper Publishers Association of Ghana. So that's where we come in as an association. First of all, I asked him this evening, so when you were arrested, there are process. There's a procedure for arrest in this country. So when the national security operatives came to your office and they told you were arrested, did they follow the right procedures? He said no. So I said, what happened? He said, they just said, oh, follow us and that you are under arrest. Then I asked him, did they show you any warrant of arrest? He said no, they didn't show us any warrant of arrest. But so why did you also submit to the arrest? I said, moments before he could say Jack, some hefty belt police officers, got off from a vehicle, and then when he saw them, he said, Jack, let's go. I said, you see, we can't do this in this country. We can't behave with impunity. Because people are national security operatives, they don't want to obey the law. You see, this morning I had the occasion of speaking to some sister stations, and I told them that, you see, this is the time that we all must speak against what is happening. Because you see, today it is modern Ghana journalists. Tomorrow it may be you or somebody close to you. Let's condemn it because it is not right.
Now, so there is the other side, though, to the story, which is the side of national security. In the statement, they categorically deny the claim that they tortured him. They tortured the journalist in question. They claim, and I'm quoting here, we consider it to be a clear and deliberate attempt by the suspect to discredit the investigations and the case against him. Torture and manhandling of suspects are not part and parcel of the culture and architecture of the Secretariat under the administration of the President Akufo-Addo. Did you establish with him?
Well, yes, I spoke to him.
The extent of this alleged torture.
I spoke to him.
Really happened?
I asked him categorically, just before I stepped into the studio, I did my background check. I spoke to him. I asked him. He says no. It wasn't an electric shock. It was something the security people will know. He said it's called taser.
Okay, the tasers. So he was tasered.
It's a taser.
Okay.
And that when they apply it to your body, that whole part will be electrocuted as if you've been. Yes. Yes, but it is not an electric shock, but it was a taser. Okay. So let me clarify that. Okay. That they didn't put anything into a socket and then touch his their bodies with it.
But that is still electric shock. Right?
Well,
the
technical
tasers. I get what you're saying.
Sure.
Tasers are equipped. It's an equipment. It comes like a baton.
Yes.
At the end of which, well, some come like a baton, some do not. But it has wires at the end, or metals at the end, that emit electric shock to you. It's designed in the UK where it's used a lot, because in UK police officers don't normally carry guns, weapons, live weapons. So they apply it to immobilize you. Okay. So they can arrest you. So you see in the US, the tasers also come with springs and that can project, the projector, that will go into your skin, apply the shock, a certain voltage that immobilizes you momentarily. Then police can arrest you. And when you're resisting, it's normally used when somebody's resisting arrest. It's not used when the person is already in your custody and you are asking the person a question. If you apply it within that context, it can amount to torture, correct? I'll come to you, because this is the man from Amnesty International. Yes. If you apply within the context when the man is already in your presence, it can amount to torture.
Exactly. So, anything that is done to a person that is physical, emotional, anything that is done to harm the person, to get what you want out of the person, is torture. And therefore, once the person is harmed in any way, so even as we're talking about doing medical checks, torture goes beyond just the physical being. It could be that they threatened him, they forced him, all of the things that you do to make the person afraid to give you information that they want can amount to torture. So we will not even limit it for us, we will not limit it to even the physical harm, but go beyond
all the psychological. And he said there's more. Based on what he told you, beyond. So that's a clarity that what they used was a taser on him.
Yes.
What else did he tell you about the circumstances under which he was kept?
I think that he has said everything to
on the clip we played.
Yes. But you see, what surprises me is the fact that on Friday, myself, I spoke to the Minister for National Security, Mr. Albert Kandapa. I told him that my member was in their custody. He said yes. They are being taken good care of. So I am surprised that we are hearing these stories from them. And he has spoken to me personally. It's not a hearsay. It is something that he has confirmed to me that I was tortured, I was molested, I was manhandled. And juxtaposing this with what the minister told me, I think that this is very unfortunate. I think that is very
When they were arrested, we also heard stories about the fact that they were blindfolded or
yes, he confirmed
bag
it.
Was
he
wrapped
confirmed
around their
it.
head.
He just confirmed it to me whilst I was driving to your studio. He just confirmed it to me. This is the first time I'm hearing of such operations.
Have you seen him since this happened?
No, I have not seen him. In fact, Primpark executive wanted to meet them today, but they told us that they had an appointment with the police. So we couldn't meet, but we are meeting them today.
That's another thing I need to confirm. Did they go to the National Security today?
They went to National Security yesterday. And National Security led them to the ministry's police station. That was yesterday, where their statements were taken. So you see, the hula below, National Security didn't take their statement.
They handed over to the police.
They handed over to the police yesterday.
After holding them for 48 hours without charge.
Yes.
Or which they can do, really.
And as I'm speaking to you, they still haven't been charged.
Okay. Now, there's another curiosity I have. If you read the statement of National Security, it says that, and it's very categorical, that we are confident that the results of the medical examination will present the truth in the matter so as to inform the appropriate steps to be taken. In the meantime, the suspects will be arraigned on Tuesday, today, 2nd July 2019, and charges preferred against him will be made known. Today we were the court. We combed the entire court.
No, there was no
case.
They have not yet been
anywhere in the court today. Meanwhile, the National Security was so confident on 1st July that the case will come before the court today. Do you know anything about it that maybe we didn't get to establish and find?
No, I spoke to the gentleman. Yesterday, their statements were taken. And when the investigator told him that you are being investigated for an alleged crime of hacking, or he said, access to email. Now he says what the CID gentleman told him yesterday was that access to email, but not hacking. Okay. So it was the first time that he was being told the reason why they were picked up from their offices at least on Thursday. But National Security, they never told them. He said he told me that National Security, they interrogated them about the two stories. That
about Kandapa and Afenya Marking.
No, all the two stories were about the Honorable Albert Kandapa.
Which alleged what?
The first one was that Mr. Albert Kandapa should be sacked. And it was an opinion piece by one Constant Kwabin that Mr. Albert Kandapa had messed up as a national security minister and so should be sacked. Now, the second story was also about the same the Honorable Minister for National Security, Mr. Albert Kandapa, that he wanted to take over the NPP.
Okay.
So that was also uttered by the same Constance Kwabin, which they published on their website. So they were asked on Wednesday they received a call from National Security, and then they were asked to pull the stories down, which they obliged.
Okay, they shouldn't have.
Yes, well, they did. They obliged and pulled the stories down from their website. Only for this follow-up arrest on Thursday. So at national security, that was what they were subjected to. The interrogation centered around the fact that they wanted to find out from them who actually
Is this Constance Kwabe?
Or yes, it's Constance Kwabe. Was it one of them?
Okay.
Is it one of the two of them, the editor or his journalist?
So they wanted to do the source of that particular article.
Yeah, the two.
And whether they were using a pseudonym, some
exactly.
cover to write the article.
Exactly.
So that's what they tell the interrogation centered on.
Exactly, at national security.
Okay.
At national security.
And that okay, go on.
And then subsequently, they were granted bail at national security. Now,
But if we are not charged, you can't be granted bail.
well, they were not
They were
charged.
just released.
They were just okay, fine. They were just released.
Yeah.
And now, yesterday, they went to national security. They were asked to report at 9 a.m. Ajafo reported at around 11 because he had to see his doctor. So at national security, then they were led to the ministry's police station. It's at the ministry's police station that the CID, the investigator, now is telling them that you are being investigated for alleged cyber something.
Okay. Which
access, he didn't even say cyber crime. He says access to an email password or an email, somebody's email account.
Okay.
You get the point? Okay. So he said, give me your statement. But yesterday, luckily enough, they didn't have their lawyers around. But I'm told that today they had their lawyers around. Their lawyers are your own brother, Samson, Samson Ayenini, and then there's another gentleman.
Okay.
You see, so now they have given their statement to the police. But you see, what is funny to me is that today they were asked to report again at 2 p.m. Now, when they went to they met my friend who also works at P7 because the allegation is that they had hacked into a corporate institution's email, and which happens to be P7. But you see, because the matter will go to court, I don't want us to preempt what will happen in court. But in fact, the full story, I have been told the full story. And
you said they met the P7?
A gentleman from Pisa who is my very good friend.
At the police station?
At the police station.
Okay.
At the ministry.
Presumably, they were also there to write their statement.
Exactly. They took statement from him, and he was also granted bail.
The P7 person?
He was also granted bail because.
But isn't he the alleged victim?
No. You see, that's why we are not being told the entire truth.
So tell us the entire truth.
It's bizarre.
That's why we invited you. Tell us the entire truth.
Now, what Ajafo tells me is that now they are being told, the police is telling them that you have an access to an email account, and you go into that email, you pick stories, and you publish on your website. Now, it so happened that the other journalists once worked with this journalist at P7, who is my very good friend, but whose name I don't want to disclose on this program. You see, so they suspect that the password or whatever gives them access to P7 online was given to this journalist by my very good friend,
who still works at P7.
Who still works at
and he used to work with this guy at Modern Ghana.
No, he wasn't working. The gentleman was working with my very good friend at P7, and my very good friend at P7 also has a newspaper.
Ah, okay.
So the gentleman was working with him. So he is his former worker. So then my friend is purported to have given the password to the P7 online by this my very good friend. So he was also invited.
Because if he works at P7, he will know the password. So this is not an online account. This is an email. This is an email into which the P7 stories go before they are published. We also have that email here, by the way. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's what the police are now saying. So my friend at Peace FM was also invited today, and statement was taken from him, and he was bailed. Ajafo was granted bail in the sum of 5,000 Ghana cedis. The Brichum, the other journalist, was also granted bail in the sum of 5,000 Ghana cedis. And their boss, the modern Ghana boss, Bright Owusu Adamson, was also there to assist them, and they went through the entire process successfully today.
Were they
so
charged?
That's where
Were
they have not yet been charged. They have not yet been charged.
If they have been granted bail in a sum of whatever you mentioned, they must have been charged.
Yeah, they have not been charged.
Is that possible?
They have not been charged. As I'm speaking, they have not been charged. He tells me this emphatically, that they have not yet been charged, and they are supposed to report back to the Ministry's police station tomorrow. But you see, today, do you know what happened? Today, when they went, the commander, who is a lady, just came to them and inquired from him all the brouhaha about his medical issues. Who gave you the medical report? Because we didn't. How did you come by the medical report? Which hospital did you go to? What did the doctors say? Okay, go. Tomorrow come. Today, that's what all that happened today.
Explain that. So what was the point of the questioning about his medical report? Has he? Well, was the police not okay? Did it come with a medical report?
Well, we didn't talk about that, but I think that because of the hula baloo in the media
about the torture,
because they did not, and then the guy saying that he had gone to the hospital as a result of the torture.
Yes.
But the Ministry's police station that is handling it for the first time, have not issued him with any medical report. So how did you to go to the hospital? So how did you come by the medical report, and which hospital did you attend?
Okay, so I'm just asking, how did you come by that medical report? Did he go there with a medical report?
Yes, I'm sure he went with a medical report, but he tells me that he went to the Legon police station and took the medical report from there and went to the Legon hospital with a medical report.
No, two things.
Okay.
The police issued him a form.
A medical form, yes.
Good. So the form is different from the report.
Yeah, the form.
A form that you use to take
go
to
the hospital.
Yeah. Okay. So he took the form from Legon.
From Legon police station.
And then went to which hospital?
Legon hospital.
And did the exam there.
Examination.
And they will issue him with the report, which he sent to the police station today.
I am sure he's here to send it.
Okay, but he's with him.
He's with him.
Okay.
I'm sure the doctor has not yet issued the report, because he was telling me that I think the doctor said he wasn't authorized to issue such reports.
Okay, good. And you're saying that the police themselves at this police station where they've been handed and investigated, they had no idea about this report
at all, because it's the first time they were sent there. They were sent there for the first time yesterday.
Okay, interesting.
You see, but all this, you are alleging that somebody is engaged in cybercrime, and then you go and arrest him in his offices. You bring him to national security. You don't even talk to him about it. But you see, if indeed they were engaged in cybercrime, the CID, the headquarters, they have a whole unit in charge of cybercrime. Why didn't you hand them over to him? Why didn't you even report when the information got to you at national security? Why didn't you even report them?
Okay, those are fundamental questions to interrogate. Robert, the reason why I haven't brought you in because I wanted to understand, set the basis.
Of course,
we now understand what is happening. I'll bring you in when we return. I also bring in Suleiman Abrahima on this. I'm trying to work the phone line to get something to just clarify for me if they were really charged with anything, because he was with them. We'll hear from Robert shortly. And I'll tell you about this email thing. As I listened to him, a lot of it made sense to me, because that is how we also operate. I'll share with you how we also operate. And that maybe may explain why this might be a storm in a teacup. Stay with us. So live on PM Express, very, very interesting details about what has unfolded today at the police station with these journalists who have arrested and allegedly tortured. I have Suleiman Abrahama on the line, but before I go to him, Mr. Abrahama, just forgive me for a second. Robert, you've heard the details of how this has unfolded. Your comment?
So one is the first thing that comes to mind is, as was mentioned before, the process of arrest. If we look at, if whatever crime the person committed, what was the process of arrest? I mean, questions have come about what can these persons charge the security operatives for. One, if you look at the process of arrest, you ask, have they gone through the processes? Did they tell the people? Because, of course, we are now hearing that they heard their charges at the point when they were being asked to write their statement.
Yeah, for the very first time.
For the very first time. So you are wondering...
No, they were hearing why they were being arrested
Exactly.
for the first time. And Miranda rights are instant.
Exactly.
The minute they are trying to pick you up, you have to tell
exactly. And you have to show a warrant of arrest, and also you have to tell the person they have the right, and they have to have access to their lawyers. For keeping them for over 24 hours without legal access to legal services is something that we need to look at. And we believe this is not the first time this is happening in so many instances where people have gone to the security operative or police where they weren't told their rights, they were put in and they are on remand. You know, a lot of people on remand, they never had any lawyers, they never had any access to legal services. Even people on death row do have...
Which is also very strange.
Exactly.
The first thing the National Security have done when they picked them up was to tell them you have an access to a lawyer.
Exactly.
And let them call their lawyers. You held them for 48 hours without it. Only today that they had access to counsel.
Exactly. So then that is where we need to look at and make sure that these things are put in place and make sure that it works. Because if somebody is arrested and this person is not told their rights and they are not given the access to legal services, then they've lost all their rights as enshrined in our Constitution.
They maybe have implicated themselves because they didn't have... I mean, all manner of violations have happened.
Sure.
Exactly.
There are human rights violations
Exactly.
happening.
Yeah.
Mr. Brahma, thank you for your time here on PM Express. I think we've lost him. We'll try and reconnect to him shortly. I mean, but the thing that beats me is this email angle you introduced, and I'm fascinated by it because we are all in the profession. We also have an an email like that, where all the stories across the country from our reporters come before we publish. If you have access to that password, that email password, it's an email password. It's nothing cyber and rocket science about it. If you have access to that, by virtue of either you used to work here, or you had a friend who told you what the password is, you can easily open, it's a Gmail account, open the account, go in and see all the stories that are coming in to the Joy Newsroom from across the country, right? And from what you describe, it appears Peace FM had the same system.
Exactly.
And this modern Ghana journalist had used to work with a current employee of Peace FM.
Exactly.
And so they both have access to that password.
Exactly.
He works at Morning Ghana, and so if the allegation is true, all he was doing was using that password to access that email, and was seeing stories coming into Peace FM in that email, and was publishing it.
Exactly.
I mean, what happens here is that every now and then we change the password because people leave. So a former colleague had gone to another media house. You change the password because he may access it to see stories. It's just you listen to these details. I wonder what you make of this.
I think it's just there should be something more than what we are hearing. I mean, that is what I'm thinking, that there should be something. There should be a reason why they were picked up and they were sent to, and if they were tortured. I mean, as we do the investigation, we find out if they were tortured and all that happened. Because if this is about emails, it is between two organizations, and these organizations have access to this legal...
Because Peace FM has not complained.
Exactly.
Who was even the complainant?
Exactly.
Okay.
Who was the complainant?
Hold on, let me bring in Suleiman. Mr. Brahma, thank you for your time here on PMS. Apologies that you were on the line for a while, but we are learning some very intriguing details about this case as it unfolds. I don't know if whilst you were on the line you heard a bit of it. The case is now with the CID. Samsung is their lawyer. They've been granted bail in the sums of 5,000 cedis, etc., etc. today. And as we learn further, apparently it's not about cyber crime per se, but an access to email password, which is what now the police that is now doing a professional job has told the individuals who were picked up. What's your reaction to these latest revelations? Okay, do we have Suleiman Abraham on the line?
Hello.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I was asking earlier, I don't know if you heard anything I said earlier, but I was asking earlier, there's some very intriguing details that we are hearing today from the fact that now the police had now formally been brought in. This is the first time they were asked to write their statement and they were told why they were first arrested, which is that one of the journalists had access to the email password of Peace FM, into which stories from across their correspondents across the country come. And they've been granted bail in a sum of 5,000 CD, etc., etc. And I know you have issued a statement today in which you say it's a growing sense of intimidation of the media and a growing culture of intolerance for dissenting views. Please explain that.
Well, I think that what is happening around this Northern Ghana issue is basically a storm in a teacup. And as the developments unfold, you cannot but tend to believe the accounts that the journalists have been narrating in terms of they haven't done a story relating to certain persons in power. And these people thinking, well, we are not happy about these stories, and the way to deal with it is to show them where power lies. Of course, the National Security Secretariat has issued a statement to deny the claim that they were assaulted. But even if you were to even go back, they haven't denied the fact that they raided their offices. They haven't denied the fact that they were blindfolded when they were arrested. So when you put all these together, it adds up to a number of developments that clearly points to the fact that there is increasing listen of the media, increasingly where people are not happy with voices they hear, they try to act in ways that, sort of seeking to muzzle dissenting voices. And a number of things that have happened. I have said time and again that since I joined the Media Foundation 9 years ago, there hasn't been any occasion where we have had cause to facilitate safe haven for a Ghanaian journalist, even though we've been doing that for journalists from different countries in the region. But this year we have had cause to do so. We are talking about a year in which somebody working with Hamas was murdered. We are talking about a year in which journalists from different houses have been beaten up. We are talking about a period when because of a story that people have published, they've been picked up, blindfolded, sent to national security, allegedly tortured, and so on and so forth. So certainly we are not in good time, and we never expected that we would go back to things like this. We thought that our democracy was growing, our press freedom record was being strengthened, but unfortunately, we are rolling back the game that we've made already.
Yeah, and there's something you said at the tail end of the report you issued today that says that you called on the President of the Republic to take a personal interest in the ongoing development in the media space and personally intervene to ensure that press freedom and safety of journalists are fully guaranteed. Why do you think the President must take a personal interest in this?
Well, quite often people will tell you, well, the President may be dealing with top-level policy issues, bilateral relations, talking about the general top-level management of the country. And some of these things may happen on his blind side. But I think that the development, the growth, the sustainability, the viability of the media industry is a very critical component of our national development agenda. And therefore, if the President's agenda is to ensure that as a country we move on, you cannot move on when press freedom is under severe attack, when journalists cannot do critical reporting, or at least they fear to do so, when journalists are being picked up, harassed, beaten, intimidated, and so on and so forth. I mean, these are clearly stuff that undermines our democracy, stuff that certainly would not aid the growth and development that we all want. If you're talking about Ghana beyond aid, we're talking about we need a country that has great reputation within the international community. And we are of the view that perhaps these things have been happening, the president may not have been aware. But it is time that he takes a personal interest, makes a personal intervention to ensure that where things are going, we at least we end up where we are now, rather than having a further deterioration.
Okay. I'm grateful that you joined us, Suleiman Abraham, with the West African Network for Peace, for Media Foundation for West Africa. I don't know why I nearly thought it's one Media Foundation for West Africa. Robert, so do you agree with the proposal that the president should step in?
Well, I think that we have institutions that have been set up to do this. And we at Amnesty believe that we want these institutions to work, to do their work and to be seen that they are stepping in at a time when they should. So, for instance, the National Media Commission needs to show leadership in this situation. I mean, to show that they are there for the media and they are there to support and make sure there's sanity within the media and other people are not infiltrating and causing harm to the system. Also, we are asking that SHRAJ, which is responsible for human rights protection in Ghana, that these individuals also report to SHRAJ. Okay. Because the only way SHRAJ, the case that happened, where the only way that they can step into any cases unless a case is reported to them. Yeah. So if the case is reported to them, they can do investigations because now it is their word, the individuals involved against that of the national security. We need an independent body that can give us information that we know can be credible, and it is by a state institution that is independent by the Constitution. So for me, I think that if we call in the president now, it's like we're calling the president for everything. And we are calling the president to do things, and we are not letting the institutions work as they are supposed to. Because if we shut down these institutions and we continually call the president to be calling on people, we are even calling the leadership of the president into question. Because the idea is that every institution has been set up, there are ministers set in place to make sure these things work, there are head directors and CEOs set up. All these people have a role to play. So for me, I think that these things must be set in place. And also, the Ghana Journalists Association must
Have they said anything about this?
Yeah, they have, yes. Must make sure that the advocacy, because we started this with them when the issue of Latif happened, Swale happened, and so it is important that they continue this campaign and do not end it. So for me, I think that we should not call the president now. We should let these institutions work. If they do not work as we expect them to, then we can call on the president.
And there's other organizations issuing statements on this have been even much stronger. The One Ghana movement said the National Security Minister should, as a matter of urgency, thoroughly investigate this inhumane attack right now. Failure to do so should result in his tendering his resignation. That is, if he cannot thoroughly investigate it, step aside.
Well, you see, I will agree with One Ghana that the Minister for National Security should thoroughly investigate it. I don't think that the president should step in at this point.
Okay, but you also said you're going to petition the president.
Yeah, we want to do that, but after the minister and the leadership.
But you trust the minister?
No, because you see,
it's a story that the whole thing about it has to do with the story about him.
He's a minister for national security, and I don't want to doubt his credibility.
No, but he's an interested party in the matter.
No, my brother, you just give me a minute. You see, when I spoke to the minister personally on Friday, he told me that the gentlemen were being kept very well. They were being taken good care of.
Yeah, but we saw what the story is.
Now it turns out to be the opposite. I want to believe that the minister didn't give that instruction.
Okay, so you want to give the minister the benefit of the doubt.
Okay. Because it's some busybody operatives who wanted to be overzealous officers.
Okay.
I am sure. And so
Robert is itching to say something.
Let's allow them. This is not beyond the Minister for National Security, and he's a chief director and the National Security Coordinator. I am sure that if the three of them team up, they'll be able to investigate this, get to the bottom of the matter, and tell Ghanaians what actually happened. And I'm not sure they are aware of what happened. I'm not sure they give the directive or the instruction. If they did, it would be very unfortunate. But it is important that they commission an inquiry into this and come out with the facts so that Ghanaians will know whether was some busybody, overzealous operatives who wanted to be holier than thou or something, or to cry more than they believe.
I think that rather he should take a back step and give leadership to the institutions that are supposed to do this investigation. Because once he has been called into question, I mean, how can somebody whose main idea said that I wrote about you and that is why I'm being punished, which means that it's likely that you gave the instruction. Now we cannot tell whether he did or not, and therefore we need an independent investigation to say that he did or he didn't. Now if he steps in and says that I am going to do the investigations, for some of us who are independent civil society organizers, we'll be questioning whether he will use an objective way of going to this story. So for me, I think that we should let the institutions that are set in place to work, even if if push comes to shove, they should let us civil society organizations also step in and do this investigation.
There's a senior police officer just sent me a message. He says, whenever a caution statement, just about listening to you, whenever a caution statement is taken from you, you need to be granted bail. But when a medical form is issued to complainants who had complained of an assault on him, the police is being used to cover up the mess of the national security. He ends it. So that's the explanation there that he's given us. So in essence, that whenever a caution statement is taken from you, you need to be granted bail. So that's why. So the caution statement was taken from that. Yeah. But when a medical form is issued to a complainant who had then been assaulted, so that's what happened. Yeah. So if the person has been assaulted, how do you then claim that the person is also, I guess, a suspect in the matter, and he suspects that there's somebody trying to do a cover-up here. Prempah, what is it what is going to happen from now? Well, is there indication of how this is proceeding forward? Is the police arraigned them before court soon? Because that's what the national security said.
Well, we do not know what is happening.
But this is another curious matter. If the CID and the national security statement said that the matter has been handed to the CID, if the CID is handling it, how come the National Security Secretary can be so authoritative in saying when they'll be arraigned before court? Because that will be only the professional judgment of the police.
Exactly.
Not National Security Secretariat.
Exactly.
The National Secretariat is confident, giving you a day and a date on which you're going. Meanwhile, the institution doing a thing, they've just begun the matter today. There's this something doesn't add up.
Yes. Well, they are reporting back to Ministry's police tomorrow. So let's wait and see what will happen. But I think that Prempah thinks that what happened was completely unnecessary, it's outrageous, it's reprehensible. And I think that the powers that be must call those involved to order. And they must be disciplined. There should be service inquiry against them. They must be given the opportunity to tell the committee why they did what they did, if they didn't do so under instructions. But you see, all of you haven't been fair to me.
Why?
As the president of, I am a new president. I was elected only on 23rd May. No champagne, nothing.
Only
Well,
baptism of fire. Robert, there's a bigger context within which this conversation is being had, and the Media Foundation made a point. I want to read it. So during the 18-month period, the Media Foundation for West Africa has documented 31 cases of violations against journalists and media houses. The 31 attacks have involved over 40 victims. And some attacks involve multiple individuals. What is happening to this great democracy?
It's worrying. It's for us at Amnesty too. We have made this observation and we are very worried, and especially when our grading on the press freedom index is dropping. We dropped like 4 points down the line, which is very, very serious. The fact that, and for us, the problem is also that when these issues happen, we don't get the end of it. So Latif, we didn't know.
That is why he says he's calling for investigations. I was laughing in my head and that will never happen. Especially when it's national security, you won't get it.
Yes, Prempah will get to the bottom of this matter. I can assure you.
I think journalists, we are not angry. We're not angry enough.
For me,
we will get to the bottom of the matter.
Is it GIJ GJA gave a very beautiful campaign strategy, which I believe if it was implemented would have gone a long way to help. And I think that they should carry out this campaign. I mean, the idea of blackouts at a point in time, the idea of engaging the key stakeholders who are involved, and so many other strategies. I think that if we don't step up, and it is the only way I believe this can be done is by the journalists themselves.
True.
The only way we can step up and make sure that this thing doesn't happen and go forward and become dangerous is if journalists start writing. They go, because in various jurisdictions where these things have happened, it's journalists who use their pen, they use their voices, they use social media to change the hands of time. So I believe that we need to get journalists who are ready to fight this particular issue that is happening to the end of it.
Well, I think that everybody in this country must be interested in what has happened. They must condemn it, because you see, the media play a very essential role in our nation building, and that if these occurrences, if these situations succeed in cowing us into submission, the nation will suffer.
Yeah.
So everybody must be interested.
Let me just illustrate the point for you just said. You watched the Black Stars today, you were excited they won. Without media,
you wouldn't have heard a word about it. You would have seen one more kick in Egypt, and we would have probably been. In fact, without media, you would have seen it online, watch it on television, listen to it on the radio. It would have said the Black Stars never existed, and AFCON was never played. Think about that. Enjoy the rest of your evening.